we are proud to announce the release day and release party for our newest book, Unto Dogs by Stephanie Ginese. I first encountered Stephanie's work 6-ish, is that about right? 6 years ago? And I think a couple of those poems have made it into the book. So it's been really great to follow this journey and see the finished product. For 15 or so minutes, Stephanie's going to read for her newest beautiful book. Hold that up, hold it up, let's see it. And after that, we'll have a quick Q&A. But I'm going to get off the stage and let the fun happen.
Yeah,
right.
That's right, baby.
We're prepared. Hi, Mom.
Hi.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So our mother is a fabulous poet and wannabe comedian. You're getting there. I promise.
Thank you.
From South Moreno, Ohio. Woof.
Flashback a little bit. She is the daughter of Italian father and Puerto Rican mother. That's our grandparents over there. What's up? More recently, about 30 years more recently, she lives with us. And currently, we're all here. That's great.
And this is her debut. Congratulations again.
Thank
You
you.
got it. We're good at this.
Good job.
Hi.
Everyone. Hold on, I'm gonna sit down. Alright, sick. Hi, thanks for coming.
Yay!
I'll let you in on a little secret. I've been dreaming about this day for a really long time. And it kind of feels surreal, so I'm trying to be present and like take it all in. But I'm glad everyone made it. People who I didn't think would make it, people traveled in from out of town. It's crazy because it's like all my favorite people are in one place. All my favorite people. Shout out. All right, I'm gonna read some poems. Hi, Dad. Hi. That's my dad, guys. If you wonder where I get my incredible sense of style from, it's my father. And this is my sister, Tina. You know, we're tiny people. It was supposed to start at 3. You knew that wasn't going to happen. All right, I'm going to read a couple poems. This book is about a lot of things. It's about Puerto Rico. It's about my own experiences with being a mother and not being a mother. And there's a lot of history and a lot of good stuff. So I hope you all read it and let me know what you think. I'm going to start with the first poem. I sent this poem to Kevin and he was like, don't change a thing. And I was like, bet. It's called A Welcoming from the Angel of Tourism. There is a small ounce of black space on the mole that rests above the god of my understanding's lip, where the dead and the unborn gather once the stars have settled. Mythic beasts of detriment and dare, tonguing the lucid river that cuts through this land of origin. Call it Eden, call it hell, depending on whom you ask. The place one goes when the last of the fight crawls from their mouths. Look closer at some of the wild things that roam under this hibiscus sky. Open wholly, so you can bear witness to the story of a new god, a triple-mooned god. Watch as she creates entire galaxies with a pinch of sugar and the emptiness of a promise. You can do this too, you know. Be an alchemist, a saint, a good daughter. Turn choice into a reckoning, history into splayed hip bones carving up the darkest parts. If you are ready to know salvation at the cost of a most merciless truth, because everything has a price, my dear. then come, and sever little body from self, leave little body dancing by the river, and self running towards the last atomic moon. Thanks. This next poem is called La Operación, and La Operación is actually a procedure that happened in Puerto Rico between the 1950s and the 1960s. And it starts with a fact. La Operación, aka when he asks if I'm on birth control. Between the 1930s and the 1970s, 1/3 of the female population of Puerto Rico was sterilized, making this the highest rate of sterilization in the world. That was the fact. Fertility, a gift or a curse, dependent on skin color, or where one watches the stars from. The women of Puerto Rico are considered more animal than human. Mothering machines tucked into mountains. Enter America. A Dr. Frankenstein with less fervor and more genocidal tendencies. Tying tubes into knots, or not ever agains. A life sentence, but here lies no more life. So what is there to give? See, the curse be that the women of Puerto Rico hold so much passion in the plexus, Christ himself becomes the chorus of shudders each time our knees part. Such a deep devotion to miracles, we cannot stop imitating them. Like hands, passing across the skin of the conga, honoring the ritual of creation so fully. Those imperialist parasites pass laws, govern bodies, to try and quiet the showy nature of God herself. And I once read an article about a biologist at Berkeley who said Puerto Rican women were the closest example to the perfect human that exists due to the mix of blood, sugar, salt. And maybe that's why America wanted to stop the breeding of a people it didn't regard as perfect or even as people, but more so a byproduct that overproduces. And I know this is not the answer to the question, but thank you.
Yeah, we get deep. We're talking smack. I'm just kidding, but we are.
Just in this book, you just showed up. You don't have to say you co-signed this at all. This poem is called On Sterilization. And it features the name of a woman named Gladys. Gladys is actually the daughter of Lolita Lebron. So if you didn't know that, now you know that. If you don't know who Lolita is, you should Google it. But you'll also learn a little bit from the book. Because I'm giving you history lessons. This is school. You didn't think you're going to be educated? We're educating you, and then I will feed you. Thank you. On sterilization. Unoccupied, but that wasn't always the case. Case in point, there are the children. See, I can make something out of nothing. Make a whole country within another country. To sterilize is to make something free from contamination, disinfected, purified. I pledge allegiance to Gladys and the 30%, who chose or did not. What is choice when freedom is a foreign language, silence becomes a body of unfamiliar characters, and the body. Who could forget what a pain it is to constantly have to save what carries your best looking shame? I am gnawing at my hands for the last night in a row because my palms are two small boats and I am not well versed in navigating a starless night. However, I am finding there is a ripe pleasure in being lost with the only thing that truly belongs to you. And best believe, I am leaving with all that I came. Thank you. All right, I'll try to not be so, let's see if there's any fun poems in here. Right, lighten the mood. There's not. It's like there is. Let me see. Not that one, for sure not that one. Ooh, this one's kind of cool. It's called Sonnet in Pill Form. It is a Wednesday like any, and there is overpriced coffee. and women of the colonizing kind modeling perfectly practiced sad faces without anything to really be sad about. What I'm saying is my ancestors are disappointed. There is a button to my left that's yelling, my body, my business, and now I am as steaming as the almond oat dandelion house milk. I want the button to choke on its privilege, its $7 latte, like the women on the island that is much too owned to consider, choked on tiny pill bombs and the smoke coming from cauterized parts. What I'm saying is someone too poor and too fertile and too erased gave the body donning the button its right to business and choice. The steam simmers to a plant-based sorrow when I think of how everything that pledges freedom comes with a body count. Thank you. I don't know if that one was necessarily fun, any more fun, or funny, but you got it, right? Yeah. You got it. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, right, you started now. What's up? Yeah, hell yeah. All right, hold on, sorry. I planned this, I promise. I didn't look at this book on the way here but think about what poems I was going to read. Hold on. Alright, I want to read this one, because it is kind of fun. This is called New God Flow, and it is a Kanye West and Pusha T erasure. So every word and line in this poem is from that song by Kanye West and Pusha T. I believe I'm the god of holes, write it in spirit, good killer, I came for more, gold, more, shake that rare body, come and have a good time with a new god, breathe stars, sell death by threes, see my luxury, sold in want, a crown, a brick, when you flood you drown, golden child, hold me down body, most hated god. 3 dreams, no resolution, till we drown in peace. Sold people, made from mess, the world. 3 dreams, like there God go, barely. Mama, Lolita, ran up and shot. Mom, Gladys, in the streets. And Irene. Follow the water, the cane. Make the new fire. Annihilate body, violate body. I've been told I'm somebody. Thank you. All right, let's see. This one's fun. It was fun for me to write. I don't know if it'll be fun for you to hear, but I'm just kidding. It's called Decolonize, verb. And there's a little graph too. I actually always wanted to be a teacher, so doing this is like super fun and scratching that itch right now. Decolonize, verb. I decolonize my damp map underwear, shove them into a mouth awing the awe in decal. I'm so decolonized, I take my love pill-less and raw. Decolon, to remove the ass of this country, so pain in my ass. I pledge decolonization to the colony of my colostomy. Colostomy, an opening so formed. The colony is a port, little body is a port. We are both openings so formed. Colon, a portion or limb. Puerto Rico, world's oldest colony. A choked limb, denied blood supply. The shade of decolonization doesn't go well with my used portions. I'm so coveted that I had to be colonized. God knows one cannot be fertile and free. Hey God, if enough people misuse the word decolonize, does it even make a sound? Ha ha ha. Thank you. Hey, more friends. They're coming from all it's like I'm being attacked with love, and I'm not mad about it. Ooh, hell yeah. All right, I'm gonna read 2 more poems. Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right, sick. And then we're gonna do the Q&A, and then we're gonna eat, and it's gonna be so cool. Okay, this one's called Undertow. There are lies we hold under our tongues, weighted coins, metal slick with the unsaid. How much history does it take to choke on the present? I can't help but glare at the shiniest thing in the room when my mind is racing. Start with my voice, since that is what I am most of all. Faithful only to its sound, however. I feel closest to God when hands snake charm my throat into a primal silence. And that's not as curious a thing as once thought. Fish 3 pearly moons from my mouth. Notice their brilliance, a luster so dense, it poses the question of choking again, and I am transfixed. 3 mirrors to reflect an unfavorable truth at me. Is this how we liberate the stars? Thanks. All right, this is the last poem that I'm gonna read. It's also the last poem in the book. And I wrote this poem in one sitting. Are y'all giggling? You can't take me nowhere. Yo, my 3 best friends are sitting right here, and we've been best friends since we were like this big, maybe. And it's making me so happy, and that's why I want to be done with this, so that I can like giggle with them. I'm like having FOMO right now that they're fucking laughing, and I can't also laugh. Laughing at me? That's rude. All right, this is the last poem anyway in the book. And the last poem that I'm gonna read. And I wrote this poem in one sitting and didn't edit it because I'm a boss. Anyway, it's called Second Birth. Newly emerged from the mother wound of God, little body carries self through a threshold of barbed edges. Little body does not ask for much besides a warm bed and some puff. Small thing. Precious and forgiving is most selfless at night, opening for anything that might stay long enough to see. Little body can do tricks. Turn slither and beast with a flash of bone tooth when it meets the flesh just so. What filth little body is capable of. Replace filth with healing, for here they mean the same. Self does not ask for much besides the freedom to talk of the dark and some respect on her name. Self was made into a little fire by creator spirits who say bitch with their fangs and spend their vacant hours smoking cigarettes held by claws red as warning. Self and little body meld together, create I, as in I am as resilient as a crucifix. I have never belonged to anything but the moon or the ghosts of my sisters, who are not really my sisters, but what I mean is understood. I want to smoke cigarettes religiously. As in, I am willing to tar my throat for the sake of worship, though I do not like going to the doctor, or I don't have health insurance. Both are true, so my rowdiest hole stays supple and unfixed. Anyway, back to the story about what I owe my life to. Really, it's all of this. A council of girl mothers who answer prayers faster than any man god the foolish can claim. However, do not be misled. It isn't always this way. They do not wake every day tied to their survival. Sometimes, when the poems are away, not poems, problems. I don't like keeping poems away. Let me run that back. Sometimes, when the problems are away, the council sighs, each of them lighting a harmless cigarette, kicking their well-walked shoes off, a bloodbath of their favorite songs melting from the window, the whole time, laughing like dogs. And now, we're going to talk a little bit about the book, because you're like, what the hell was she just talking about? And so, to help me do that, I've invited my friend Isabella Moreno to lead a little Q&A. Just a little one. Then we'll party. Isabella Moreno is a New York-Rican writer, educator, and creative from the Bronx, who's called Greater Cleveland home for the last decade. In 2016, she founded Voices Latina, a discussion group, aka book club, focused exclusively on Latinas, the first and only in Ohio and one of only a handful nationwide. She has facilitated writing workshops prioritizing women and creatives of color since 2009. Voices Latina will also be hosting a virtual discussion of Unto Dogs, Thursday, September 8th, and an in-person discussion in Cleveland on Saturday, September 10th. I will be present for both. There will be a writing workshop inspired by themes from Unto Dogs in August. Wow, I didn't even know that. You didn't tell me that on the phone. This is the first time I'm hearing it. You can get more information on Voices Latina, writing workshops, and Isabella Moreno on her Instagram account, Illuminating Our Voices. She is beyond enthusiastic and greatly humbled. She wrote this, I didn't. To have a conversation today with me about my book, Unto Dogs. Give a big round of applause to my homegirl, Isabella.
The first time that I met Stephanie, she was reading, and I was blown away. I was like, wow, who is this woman? What's her story? What are these things about? I was so moved. I hadn't heard anything like that since leaving New York City, so I approached her, and we exchanged information, and that's that. You know, we've been in touch, we've been creative buddies, girl buddies since, and it's been an absolute joy to see this come to fruition. Yeah, so can we give her a round of applause? Maybe you've met people who said that and you meet them after they wrote the book. But to be in the presence of someone who did what they said they were going to do, and you're not meeting them when they're famous yet, that's huge. So, much props. Okay. So I have tried to condense, because we're going to do a conversation here from like 8 pages of notes to like 1. Okay, I'm trying. So the first thing that I want to just say, reading this book was absolutely amazing. After each time I read something, honestly, I was propelled to write. It really just opened up this creative space in me, and I was really moved. I had this plant up in my hand. I was really so propelled to write and be creative, and that doesn't happen often. I'm an avid reader, and that was mind-blowing. I want to start with a quote from the book, page 46, Sailor, oh Sailor. I know my audience, and we all have secrets too heavy to float. This book is so courageous, and I wanted to talk to you about, it's one thing to write it, it's a whole nother thing to allow these type of writings to be published. That's beyond courageous. And so can you talk to us, share with your audience here, the impetus behind the book? What was pushing you forward with this, to birth this, to bring this into the world?
I need the mic because I'm not about to yell. I started just writing poems about my own experience. I had also at the same time started reading a book by Irene Villar, who is Lolita LeBron's granddaughter. And it was a book about her own sort of like struggles with reproductive issues, things, topics. And I noticed that there were a lot of parallels between my own story, her story, and the story of like the women of Puerto Rico. Yeah, so like I started to, you ever see that meme of like Charlie Day from It's Always Sunny where he's like crazy and like connecting with the red thread? That was me for like a whole year. I was just like making all these connections, and it's actually crazy. My friend Lynette over here in the corner, yes, I'm about to put you out. We were like sitting down having coffee one day, and I was talking about it, and she was like, yeah, there is all these connections. And she's like, it was sort of like through that conversation, and I was like, I think I have a book, you know? And I was just interested in researching more, and yeah, again, making those like crazy red thread connections. And I thought, hey, it is a book. And I felt like there was nothing I had come across, especially in poetry, that had talked about anything like this. Yeah, so that just motivated me to write it even more.
So, speaking about common threads, we are living today in July 2022 in a nation that has overturned Roe versus Wade, in a nation where women's right to do as they with their bodies, the government is now saying no. And I bring that up because in this book there's womanhood, there's abortion, there's miscarriage, there's coming of age. And it's interesting that if there's one poem in here that you write when it was the celebration. You were in Puerto Rico, there was a celebration of Roe versus Wade. And now here we are, the book has been published, and just a month, 2 months ago, Roe versus Wade has been abolished, has been overturned. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that's like for you as a creative, as an individual, as a person, as a creative person, as a citizen?
Yeah, when I wrote this book, I didn't think this would all be happening, especially not at the time it was coming out, so that was weird. Like, I didn't mean, you know what I mean? Like, I had no intention of, like, capitalizing off this political moment. It just so happened that, like, I was writing this book, it happened to come out now, and then all that stuff happened, and I was like, that's eerie. Yeah, so I think this type of book is important because I looked, and there's not a lot of literature that so, like, blatantly talks maybe about, like, abortions or miscarriages, sterilization, or, like, these other issues that, like, have happened. So I thought the book needed to be published, and, like, if I wasn't going to write it, I would have hoped somebody else would have written it, but I'm also kind of glad that I wrote it because I got to put my own spin on it. And share my own story, which is important. A lot of times these things happen in your life, you make choices, you have experiences, and you're told not to talk about it. You're told to keep it quiet. It's a secret. We don't talk about these things. And I think that has led to more trauma than anything else. I think when we bring these things to the light and understand that they are a part of your life, a part of your experience, and that it's relatable, like other people have gone through these things. They have also suffered. They've also had traumatic experiences, and we're not alone. When we, like, silo ourselves in isolation with these issues, yeah, I just think it breeds more ground for, like, loneliness and trauma, and I think that, we begin to, not to say the word, like, heal, because I don't think you ever necessarily heal from things, but you don't have to go through it alone. It's better to experience things, to go through things in community. And so what I hoped with this book was that it would kind of show, like, yeah, I'm also here, and we're all here. We all share these experiences. If not personally, we know somebody. And so, like, it's free ground for just, more community. Yeah.
And that's why I opened up talking about courage. What you talked about just now, that's where the word courage came from. To write the poems, but then also to let them be out into the world. Because so many of the themes in the book, we don't talk about. We are silenced, or we're led to believe that we need to be silenced. So yes, complete courage, awesome. There was, on page 18, from Decolonize, one of the quotes, God knows one cannot be fertile and free. And that was amazing, especially in the times that we're living in. Okay, so let's see. The other things when we talk about, well, you know what? Okay, so you're growing up in South Lorraine, you're Italian and Puerto Rican, and let's jump into this. Where did this information on this trinity of Lolita Lebron, Gladys, Irene, where did that come from? Because I was interested in that. Where did this come from? It is not necessarily common knowledge. It's something else that's been erased.
Like I said, I found this book. It was called Impossible Motherhood. I think it's Confessions of an Abortion Addict is what the book is called. And it is by Irene, who is Lolita's granddaughter. And I just started reading it because I was like, well, it sounded interesting, and as I started to read it, that's where I started like to connect, and I was like, wow, she talks about her mother, who actually was part of the 30% of women who were sterilized, and then her grandmother, who was this Puerto Rican nationalist, some would say freedom fighter, some would say political terrorist, depending on whom you ask. But I just thought this lineage of 3 women, you know, then there's like the connection that I made with sort of like the pagan ideology of the triple moon goddess, so maiden, mother, crone. And then I started to think about my own lineage, like my grandmother, my mother, and just how also the number 3, and it kept popping up. And like I said, I was there with the like red thread, coffee, at my desk, looking crazy with like notebooks open. And it seemed like their story coincided with the story of me personally, the island, history. There was just so much to like take from it. And so the book is basically like, it feels whittled down because there was so much like information and knowledge to just be expounded upon. And I gave you like 60-some pages of poems was the best I could, was as much as I could get it whittled down without, you know, writing an entire like encyclopedia about it. But yeah, it all kind of like fit together, and it was too like, I don't know if this is the right word, serendipitous, coincidental, to not include them in the book, in their story. It just felt like all of that tied it all together, even more so.
No, I love the way you wove them into the book, and I was definitely curious about that. 3 comes up a lot. There's the 3 Ks. There's America with the K and the. I mean, I really love that thread there. So we have a book that's talking about colonization. It's talking about Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico could be seen as a metaphor for a woman. A woman could be the metaphor for Puerto Rico. I mean, the layers. That's why I tell you, I read this book twice already. The layers, the layers, the layers. When we as a society see books, hear books, and we think like, abortion, woman issue, miscarriage, woman issue, sterilization, woman issue. Even though we know that those things are not happening without men, okay? Like, hello. So, on page 25, for those of you who have purchased your book already, hint, hint, on page 25, you know me. Oh, I'm there already. Okay. So, this spoke to me so loudly. And I'm just going to read a portion of this. What they will remember most about high school is all of the girls with the wild and loud, but best of all, pretty mouths. What they won't remember is all of the times those mouths cursed their careless names. Talk to us, talk to me about the role of the men in this book.
Well,
they're woven in. They're definitely woven in.
You know, men, people, it takes 2 to tango, right? Didn't our parents always tell us that? That's right, but they did. You're fine. You can't, you know, a body cannot make a baby on its own. So, like that poem that you're reading from talks about being in high school and like going to the Planned Parenthood, which was like a regular field trip for a lot of the girls in my high school, right? I know.
Remember, they are a healthcare provider.
They are a healthcare provider. But also, there's a criticism of the woman who founded Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, in the book. She is quoted in the poem K3 quotes from the colonizing kind, because she was actually a eugenicist.
Girl,
yeah.
I didn't know.
So Planned Parenthood, it was like, so what? Let me just go back. So she said, birth control does not mean contraception indiscriminately practiced. It means the release and cultivation of the better elements in our society. Birth control must lead ultimately to a cleaner race. So their plan, right? So you heard about all the time they were like, oh, those articles about like Planned Parenthood being in like communities of color in the hood, like there was a reason. So while it is like a really great resource now, trust me, I visited it, obviously. The girls from my hometown visited it, there's a poem. Its origins are really dark. And even though it's been like a great resource now, it's just to point out, like both of those poems coexist in this collection because there's the duality between its origin and between like its present, I guess.
I didn't know that. I won't say I'm embarrassed because I'm not going to be embarrassed by not knowing things, but I did not know that. I did not know that. Well, I know you have been stressing that you are not here to read and talk. You are here to party hardy. And so, wow, let me see how many more pages do I have of quotes and notes, ideas mío, no se pare. But we are gonna stop. And I just, again, Stephanie, oh, you know what, before we start, let's start on this note. What is your vision for the book? What's your vision for the, yes, let's
I'm glad you asked.
And what's next? Tell these beautiful people.
Well, yeah. Well, my vision for the book is for it to catapult me into superstardom. I'm not joking. No, for real. I would like the book to go as far as the good Lord is willing to take it. You know, my publishers are back there, so y'all submit for like National Book Awards and Pushcart Prize and all that fun stuff. And I just feel like we have a really good foundation here, or candidate for one of those awards. You know, a little Anna Spiel, Wolf, just saying, because nothing really exists like this, especially in poetry. So I'm just throwing that out to the universe. I have some friends here. I know y'all are agented it up or whatever. Pass the book along to your friends, family, people in places that can write me checks. Thank you. And what's next is, again, whatever the book will allow to be what's next. I just want to see what it can do now that it's out in the world. I was really excited for this moment, this day, but I'm also looking forward to everybody reading it, because I know y'all haven't read it yet.
Yes.
So you're like, what are we in store for? What the fuck do we just pre-order or buy? Something great, I'll tell you that. And then what's next is, I've been working on some poems about South Lorraine. You know, you hear that place thrown around a lot. It's where I'm from. It means a whole great deal to me. There's some South Lorrainites in the building. Make some noise if you're from South Lorraine. Hell yeah. We're special people. The funniest people you would absolutely ever meet. I can guarantee that. And the best looking women, I'm just saying. Yeah. A little bit of steel mill dust, and a little bit of rice and beans, you know, wet body. So I've been working on a collection of poems about South Lorraine, and I kind of also want to put that place on the map because it is very special. If you didn't know, we've got a butt ton of Puerto Ricans there, a Puerto Rican butt ton, so that's like even bigger. Yeah. And it's a tight-knit community. Our families have known each other from the island to South Lorraine, and, you know, like I said, my three best friends, this peanut gallery right here, we've been friends since we were little, and we've stayed besties because I wouldn't trust nobody else with my heart other than some girls from around the way. But yeah, that's what's next. You know, maybe we'll get a movie going, a documentary. I don't know.
She's open to all.
I'm open. So if you got connections, hook me up. I just want to write and enjoy life. And my kids, look at them. They're adorable. Weren't they good? Give them a round of applause. They're funny. They're smart. Really, really good looking. So, you know. They want to have a great future. They want to do great things in life. So if you support me, maybe I'll be able to, you know, pay that check for them. Thank you.
So let me just remind all of you that on Thursday, September 8th, we're going to have, Voices Latina is going to have a discussion of Unto books. So you buy it and we will get together and talk about it. On Saturday, September 10th, we're going to do it in person in the Cleveland area. So you can buy the book for someone, send it some and they can all be part of the discussion. Stephanie, thank you for the honor of doing this. Thank you, my love. And let's give her a round of applause.
There's food in the back. There's all kinds of food. There's some vegetarian options as well as Puerto Rican food. It's delicious, obviously, duh. But if that's not your vibe, which is okay, I guess. There's also food available through Jukebox. They actually have really, really good food, vegan, vegetarian options. Their shit hits. The Puerto Rican food hits. There's drinks. I made a specialty cocktail. You should order it. Or whatever, order whatever you want. I don't care. There's gonna be music. Let's kick it, y'all.